When you want to add sound to the animation of enemies, footsteps, attack, death, hit sounds, there's a very nice and fun way to do so. The spaceship map contains 3 enemies, which are these minion dawn characters, and they are all located if you look at the content browser, in the content enemies, if you look under minions, you have the minion dawn, the minion dusk, and the minion lane. So I will not look at the blueprint, but I want to look at the animation. The animation, we have a montage, but then we have an animation BP, and that's the one we want to look at. In the animation BP, you want to click on this here where it says animation, and make sure you are visualizing the assets browser down here. As you can see, you have different green actions. So this is the attack. If you double click on it, this is the combat jog. This is the death. This is the non-combat jog idle and non-combat jog. When you want to create a sound to it, the use of the timeline is fantastic, because you can see exactly by scrolling here where when the footsteps are falling, and also if you use the zoom tools that we normally use, like I'm doing Option and left click, you can also see exactly the impact on the ground and study how to make your sounds. We want to create our own track, so we add a Notify track ourselves, and maybe we can call it F mod. And in this one, simply we can add a Notify and we can play an F mod event. We can position exactly where they are. If you make a distinction of sounds between left and right, maybe you want to call different events, but for me, I just want to place it like that, and I continue doing this. So Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. That's all there is to it. And so what F mod event? So if you click on this, up here, you'll have a chance to select the event. So let's make the one for the enemy, the minion. So I create a new folder, and I call it minion, and I apply the same sound to all of them. If you definitely can do differently if you want to, but the animation is only one, so there's not much difference that you can do between the robots. And then I add a new event called footsteps minion. Of course, this has to be assigned to a specific bank, and I create already a bank for my enemies. And the sheet that you want here is an action sheet, because what we're using is a multi-instrument. Why are we using a multi-instrument? Because a multi-instrument allows it to have a bunch of files here that they can play one after the other, or concurrently with something else. So you can have one that plays here, one that plays there, and they can all play at the same time, concurrent or consecutive. So this first, this second, and this third. Why would you need that? Because if the animation is something complex, if you want to be very thorough and look at this footstep here, you see that there's an impact and then a release. Look at this, the left leg now, impact with the heel, and then the body of the foot, and then the top of the foot leveling up. So technically you can create 3 events in succession, or no, you just have one multi-instrument, so you have different sounds that you can load into it. For now we just need to do this very quickly, and just one sound just to have an idea. So if I add this sound that I just put on, that will play like that. If I add the same sound multiple times, just as an example, so that we have some sounds, now I have 5 different files. Look what happens. They will all sound the same, but I can change for each of them the pitch. So this one could be pitched up, this no pitch, this pitch down, this one pitch very much down, and this one just a little teensy pitch up. So now look at where the sounds are getting highlighted. So you see that it's basically changing every time the sample based on this thing which is called shuffle. Shuffle is, it's a random that never repeats, so it basically does the whole sequence and then it can repeat. Instead, if you use a randomize, you can always have repetition. This is what we call the round robin. You can also change the probability, so if you want to, you can set the play percentage for that particular one, and then the other gets some more percentage to compensate it to make 100. Another interesting thing you can do is to right click and add a silence instrument, because that creates some kind of unpredictability. Sometimes it doesn't play, but you don't want to do this in case of footsteps. There are other circumstances where you might want to do it, but not for the footsteps, because they always have to be sounding. So now if I build and I go to Unreal, when I look for the event, I look for footsteps, and I will see that I have footstep minion. Unfortunately, you need to do for every single notify, and so on until you finish all the notification that you want. This procedure you can do to any things that you have an animation for. So you can not only do to the main footsteps, I could have used the leg and other millions of more sophistication. So you can make characters very sophisticated. This is the full thing. And so now when I go into the spaceship, if I tell him to, before we test it, just so you know, there were two, jogging and walking. One is non-combat, the one we put the notifiers on, but we also need to put it on the combat, otherwise you will not see it. And again, I will create a track, call it fmod, and add my notify play fmod event. So once you've done this, more or less put it in the same position, then you can go into the spaceship, locate the area. So let's say I'm gonna be there. And you can see that it's following one other thing that we could do and we should be doing is that on the sound there, you want to click on the footsteps there where you have the main fader and the layout there, and the output there. You want to add a spatializer, simply because it's not you don't want to hear them too much in your head. So if I go again, play from here, it's working, they're following you. So to recap, we created a dedicated folder for my enemy, in this case for the footsteps, and we used an action sheet to add a multi-instrument with a randomized function, and the sounds, and they were an ideal, it should be shorter, but it's just to simplify. And we also change a little bit the percentage there. You can also change the pitch for each individual one, and that creates basically the gist of the round robin and the multi-instrument to do footsteps. In Unreal, we looked into the content drawer, we looked into the enemy's animation blueprint, and once we open it, we find yourself in this big page, and we need to look into this where there is an animated sign of a person running, and looking into the asset browser where you can see the different animation. In fact, we should go on the dev and add also some animation there if we want to make it nicely. These sounds apply to all the minions, even if the minions have different name because they look different, but the sounds will be the same. But that's what we did.